boys and girls. Here I am again to continue our read aloud of Wonder. We left off on page 289. This is called The Drop-Off. It's right after the last day of school, where Mr. Brown had posted his final precept for June, and he had asked the students to write their own precept over the summer about a way of living, a really important way to view things. And his June precept was, just follow the day and reach for the sun, which I think is something that we all can think about doing that. Just kind of take the day as it comes and do our very best to get through. Sometimes we have challenges, as we know we are having challenges right now, but just kind of meet the day. Each day is a new day and a new time to try something new and something different if you weren't successful the day before, and just do your best. I'm picking up on page 289. It's called The Drop-Off. The graduation ceremony was held in the Beecher Prep Upper School Auditorium. It was only a 15-minute walk from our house to the other campus building, but Dad drove me because I was all dressed up and had on a new shiny black shoes that weren't broken in yet, and I didn't want my feet to hurt. Students were supposed to arrive at the auditorium an hour before the ceremony started, but we got there even earlier, so we sat in the car and waited. Dad turned on the CD player, and our favorite song came on. We both smiled and started bobbing our heads to the music. Dad sang along with the song. Andy would bicycle across town in the rain to bring you candy. Guess that was the song. Hey, is my tie on straight? I said. He looked and straightened it a tiny bit and kept on singing. And John would buy you the gown for you to wear to the prom. That was also the song. Does my hair look okay? I said. He smiled and nodded. Perfect, he said. And you look great, Augie. Via put some gel in it this morning, I said, pulling down the sun visor and looking in the mirror. It doesn't look too puffy. No, it's very, very cool, Augie. I don't think you ever had it this short before, have you? No, I got it cut yesterday. I think it makes me look more grown up, don't you? Definitely, he was smiling, looking at me and nodding. But I'm the luckiest guy on the Lower East Side because I got wheels and you want to go for a ride. Look at you, Augie, he said, smiling from ear to ear. Look at you, looking so grown up and spiffy. I can't believe you're graduating from the 5th grade. I know, it's pretty awesome, right? I nodded. It feels like just yesterday that you started. Remember, I still had that Star Wars braid hanging from the back of my head? Oh my gosh, that's right, he said, rubbing his palm over his forehead. You hated that braid, didn't you, Dad? Hate is too strong a word, but I definitely did not love it. You hated it. Come on, admit it, I teased. No, I didn't hate it, he smiled, shaking his head. But I will admit to hating that astronaut helmet you used to wear. Do you remember? The one Miranda gave me? Of course I remember. I used to wear that thing all the time. Good God, I hated that thing, he laughed, almost more to himself. I was so bummed when it got lost, I said. Oh, it didn't get lost, he answered casually. I threw it out. Wait, what? I said, honestly. I didn't think I heard him right. The day is beautiful, and so are you, he was singing. Dad, I said, turning the volume down. What? He said. You threw it out? He finally looked at my face, and saw how mad I was. I couldn't believe he was being so matter-of-fact about the whole thing. I mean, to me, this was a major revelation. He was acting like it was no big deal. Augie, I couldn't stand seeing that thing cover your face anymore, he said clumsily. Dad, I love that helmet. It meant a lot to me. I was bummed beyond belief when it got lost. Don't you remember? Of course I remember, Augie, he said softly. Oh, Augie, don't be mad. I'm sorry. I just couldn't stand seeing you wear that thing on your head anymore. You know? I didn't think it was good for you. He was trying to look at me in the eye, but I wouldn't look at him. Come on, Augie, please try to understand, he continued, putting his hand under my chin and tilting my face toward him. You were wearing that helmet like all the time, and the real truth is, I miss seeing your face, Augie. I know you don't always love it, but you have to understand, I love it. I love this face of yours, Augie, completely and passionately. And it kind of broke my heart that you were always covering it up. He was squinting at me like he was really wanted me to understand. Does Mom know? I said. He opened his eyes wide. No way. Are you kidding? She would have killed me. She tore the place apart looking for that helmet. Dad, I said, I mean, she spent like a week looking in every closet, in the laundry room, everywhere. I know, he said, nodding. That's why she'd kill me. And then he looked at me, and something about his expression made me start laughing, which made him open his mouth wide, like he was just realizing something. Wait a minute, Augie, he said, pointing his finger at me. You have to promise me you will never tell Mommy anything about this. I smiled and rubbed my palms together, like I was about to get very greedy. Let's see, I said, stroking my chin. I'll be wanting that new Xbox when it comes out next month, and I'll definitely be wanting my own car in about 6 years. A red Porsche would be nice. And he started laughing. I love it when I'm the one who makes Dad laugh, since he's usually the funny man and gets everybody else laughing. Oh boy, he said, shaking his head. You really have grown up. The part of the song we love to sing the most started to play, and I turned up the volume. We both started singing. I'm the ugliest guy on the Lower East Side, but I've got wheels and you want to go for a ride. Want to go for a ride, want to go for a ride, want to go for a ride. We always sang this part at the top of our lungs, trying to hold that last note as long as the guy who sang the song, which always made us crack up. While we were laughing, we noticed Jack had arrived and was walking over to our car. I started to get out. Hold on, said Dad. I just want to make sure you've forgiven me, okay? Yes, I forgive you. He looked at me gratefully. Thank you. But he didn't ever throw anything else of mine out again without telling me. I promise. I opened the door and got out just as Jack reached the car. Hey, Jack, I said. Hey, Augie, said Hey, Mr. Pullman, said Jack. How you doing, Jack, said Dad. See you later, Dad, I said, closing the door. Good luck, guys, Dad called out, rolling down the front window. See you on the other side of 5th grade. We waved as he turned on the ignition and started to pull away. But then I ran over and he stopped the car. I put my head in the window so Jack wouldn't hear what I was saying. Can you guys not kiss me after graduation? I said quietly. It's kind of embarrassing. I'll try my best. Tell Mom too. I don't think she'll be able to resist, Augie, but I'll pass it along. Bye, dear old Dad, he smiled. Bye, my son, my son. Everyone take your seats. Jack and I walked behind a couple of 6th graders into the building and then followed them to the auditorium. Mrs. G was at the entrance, handing out the programs and telling kids where to go. 5th graders down the aisle to the left, she said. 6th graders to the right. Everyone come in. Good morning. Go to your staging areas. 5th graders to the left, 6th graders to the right. The auditorium was huge inside. Big sparkly chandeliers, red velvet walls, rows and rows and rows of cushioned seats leading up to the giant stage. We walked down the wide aisle in a big room to the left of the stage. Inside were 4 rows of folding chairs facing the front of the room, which is where Miss Rubin was standing, waving at us as soon as we walked in the room. Okay, kids, take your seats, she was saying, pointing to the rows of chairs. Don't forget, you're sitting alphabetically. Come on, everyone, take your seats. Not too many kids had arrived yet, though the ones who had weren't listening to her. Me and Jack were sword fighting with our rolled up programs. Hey, guys. It was Summer walking over to us. She was wearing a light pink dress and I think a little makeup. Wow, Summer, you look awesome, I told her, because she really did. Really? Thanks. You do too, Augie. Yeah, you look okay, Summer, said Jack, kind of matter-of-factly. And for the first time, I realized that Jack had a crush on her. This is so exciting, isn't it? Said Summer. Yeah, kind of, I answered, nodding. Oh, man, look at this program, said Jack, scratching his forehead. We're going to be here all freaking day. I looked at the program. Headmaster's opening remarks, Dr. Harold Jensen. Middle school director address, Mr. Lawrence Tushman. Lights and day, middle school choir. 5th grade student commencement address, Zeminia Chin. Pachelbel Canon in D, middle school chamber music ensemble. 6th grade student commencement address, Mark Antonek. Under pressure, middle school choir. Middle school dean address and Miss Jennifer Rubin. Awards presentation, CBAC. Roll call of names. So when you go into a graduation or an event, you usually get a program. So this is kind of like what I just read to you, a program of events that are going to happen. That's why Jack seemed to be a little bit bummed because he said it's going to take a really long time to get through the whole thing. Why do you think that? I asked. Maybe Mr. Jensen's speeches go on forever, said Jack. He's even worse than Tushman. My mom said she actually dozed off when he spoke last summer. When he spoke last year, Summer added. What's the award presentation, I asked. That's where they give medals to the biggest brainiacs, Jack answered, which would mean Charlotte and Zeminia will win everything in 5th grade, just like Charlotte won everything in the 4th grade and the 3rd grade. Not in the 2nd grade, I laughed. They didn't give those awards in 2nd grade, he answered. Maybe you'll win this year, I joked. Not unless they give awards for the most C's, he laughed. Everyone take your seats, Miss Rubin started yelling louder now, like she was getting annoyed that nobody was listening. We have a lot to get through, so take your seats. Don't forget you're sitting in alphabetical order. A through G, the first row. H through N, the second row. O through Q, the third row. R through Z, the last row. Let's go, people. We should go sit down, said Summer, walking toward the front section. You guys are definitely coming over to my house after this, right? I called out after her. Definitely, she said, taking her seat next to Zeminia Chin. When did Summer get so hot? Jack muttered in my ear. Shut up, dude, I said, laughing, as we headed toward the 3rd row. Seriously, when did that happen? He whispered, taking the seat next to mine. Mr. Will, said Miss Rubin, shouting. Last time I checked, W came between R and Z. Yes? Jack looked at her blankly. Dude, you're in the wrong row, I said. I am? And the face he made as he got up to leave, which was a mixture of looking completely confused and looking like he had just played a joke on someone, totally cracked me up. A simple thing. After about an hour later, we were all seated in the giant auditorium waiting for Mr. Tushman to give his middle school address. The auditorium was even bigger than I had imagined. It would be. Bigger even than the one at Via's school. I looked around, and there must have been 1 million people in the audience. Okay, maybe not 1 million, but definitely a lot. Thank you, Headmaster Jensen, for those very kind words of introduction, said Mr. Tushman, standing behind the podium on the stage as he talked into the microphone. Welcome, my fellow teachers and members of the faculty. Welcome, parents and grandparents, friends and honored guests, and most especially, welcome to my 5th grade and 6th grade students. Welcome to the Beecher Prep Middle School graduation ceremonies. Everyone applauded. Every year, continued Mr. Tushman, reading from his notes, with his reading glasses, way down on the tip of his nose, I am charged with the writing 2 commencement addresses, one for the 5th and one for the 6th grade graduation ceremony today, and one for the 7th and 8th grade ceremony that will take place tomorrow. And every year, I say to myself, let me cut down on my work and write just one address that I can use for both situations. Seems like it wouldn't be such a hard thing to do, right? And yet, each year, I still end up with 2 different speeches, no matter what my intentions. And I finally figured out why this year. It's not as you might assume, simply because tomorrow I'll be talking to an older crowd with the middle school experience that is largely behind them, whereas your middle school experience is largely in front of you. No, I think it has more to do with the particular age that you are right now. this particular moment in your lives, that even after 20 years of my being around students this age still moves me, because you are at the cusp, kids. You are at the edge between childhood and everything that comes after. You are in a transition. We are all gathered here today, Mr. Tushman continued, taking off his glasses and using them to point at all of us in the audience. All of your families, friends, and teachers to celebrate not only your achievements this year at Beecher Prep, middle schoolers, but the endless possibilities. When you reflect on this past year, I want you all to look at where you are now and where you've been. You've all gotten a little taller, a little stronger, a little smarter, I hope. But there's some people in the audience. Hear some people in the audience chuckle. But the best way to measure how much you've grown isn't by inches or by the number of laps you can now run around the track, or even your grade point average. Though those things are important, to be sure. It's what you've done with your time. How have you chosen to spend your days? And whom have you touched this year? That, to me, is the greatest measure of success. There's a wonderful line in a book by J.M. Barrie. And no, it's not Peter Pan. And I'm not going to ask you to clap if you believe in fairies. Here, everyone laughed again. But in another book by J.M. Barrie called The Little White Bird, he writes, he started flipping through a small book on the podium until he found the page he was looking for. And then he put on his reading glasses. Shall we make a new rule of life? Always to try to be a little kinder than necessary. Here, Mr. Tushman looked up at the audience. Kinder than is necessary, he repeated. What a marvelous line, isn't it? Kinder than necessary. Because it's not enough to be kind. One should be kinder than needed. Why I love that line, that concept, is that it reminds me that we carry with us, as human beings, not just the capacity to be kind, but the very choice of kindness. And what does that mean? How is that measured? You can't use a yardstick. It's like I was saying just before. It's not like measuring how much you've grown in a year. It's not exactly quantifiable, is it? Now, how do we know we've been kind? What is being kind anyway? He put on his reading glasses again and started flipping through another small book. There's another passage in a different book I'd like to share with you, he said, if you'll all bear with me while I find it. Here we go. In Under the Eye of the Clock by Christopher Nolan, the main character is a young man who is facing some extraordinary challenges. There's this one part where someone helps him, a kid in his class. On the surface, it's a small gesture. But to this young man, whose name is Joseph, it's, well, if you permit me, he clears his throat and read from the book. It was at moments such as these that Joseph recognized the face of God in human form. It glimmered in their kindness to him. It glowed in their keenness. It hinted in their caring. Indeed, it caressed in their gaze. He paused and took off his reading glasses again. It glimmered in their kindness to him, he repeated, smiling. Such a simple thing, kindness. Such a simple thing. A nice word of encouragement given when needed. An act of friendship. A passing smile. He closed the book, put it down, and leaned forward on the podium. Children, what I want to impart to you today is an understanding of the value of that simple thing called kindness. And that all I want to leave you with today, I know I'm kind of infamous for my verbosity. Everybody laughed again. I guess he knew he was known for his long speeches. But what I want you, my students, to take away from your middle school experience, he continued, is the sure knowledge that in the future you make yourselves anything. In the future you make for yourselves anything is possible. If every single person in the room made it a rule that whatever you are, whenever you can, you will try to act a little kinder than is necessary, the world really would be a better place. And if you do this, if you act just a little kinder than is necessary, someone else, somewhere, someday may recognize in you, in every single one of you, the face of God. He paused and shrugged. Or whatever politically correct spiritual representation of universal goodness you happen to believe in. He added quickly, smiling, which got a lot of laughs and loads of applause, especially from the back of the auditorium where the parents were sitting. Okay, I think I'm going to leave off there. The next chapter is awards, and we're going to find out what Augie was just asking Jack about. On the bottom of the program was the distribution of awards, which is going to be the next part of the graduation ceremony, and we'll see what happens when the awards are given.